Today we are going to be creating a weaving hot air balloon. This is part 1 of a 2-day project. We're going to start with the background. It is up to you which type of cityscape you want to create for your background. I have a handout that has 2 pictures. I'm going to create the one that's more of a seaside town. Please write your name on your paper, whether you want it on the front or the back. Then I'm going to create my sky. I'm adding clouds in the sky. Our word for this month is rhythm. So when we use rhythm in art, we're repeating the same shape several times. So I'm repeating the same cloud shape several times. I've given myself space for my hot air balloon. I'm going to start to create a horizontal line. This is where my land's going to meet the sky, but it's also going to be where it's holding up the town. It's kind of like a little barge area right next to my houses. To create my houses, I'm just creating rectangles and I'm staggering those rectangles. I'm going to then create a horizontal line to help create my roofs on my buildings. Then I'm going to create the door. To create the door, I'm going to build a rectangle with a circle. I'm going to do that on each 3 of my houses. Once I've done that, then I'm going to start to create some triangles on my last house. So it kind of makes a design on the roof. I'm going to then create some windows by bringing down a rectangle. Windows can also be squares. I'm repeating the same shape, so even the windows will end up having rhythm in art. I messed up on my crayon, and sometimes when we mess up, we can either get frustrated with it or we can make it into something. I made mine into a bush. I'm adding 2 horizontal lines to my windows, so my windows will have a design. And then I'm going to add 1 vertical line through it. I've completed my first house. So I'm moving on to my second one. This one I'm going to make 2 squares for windows. To create my design in it, I make a letter T. So I'm now finished 2 of my buildings. I'm going to then create a rectangle to make a big window on my last building. And then add 2 vertical lines. Then I'm going to create some horizontal lines, kind of similar to how I did the first house, to make a design in the window. And then 1 vertical line. Now I have my 3 houses drawn. I'm going to start to create boats because I'm making my city by the sea. So I start to make a boat house, creating a rectangle for a roof. I'm going to then bring down a square. I'm going to then bring a horizontal line for the top half of my boat. I'm going to add a flag by adding a vertical line and a triangle. I'm adding 2 diagonal lines to finish up my boat shape. I'm not going to put a horizontal line down at the bottom. I'm going to put water wavy lines there. I'm going to add 2 windows to my boat. One's a rectangle, one's a square. Now I'm making my wavy lines for my boat. I can add some different designs on my boat. This one I'm adding a horizontal line and a square, so it has a little design that you see on boats where they place their names. I'm going to create a flotation device by the houses. It's a little circle shape, kind of looks like a donut. And then I put a rope on it to attach it. Then I'm going to create the design of the brickwork that is going to be holding up all the houses. So it's kind of like a little barge. I even add some wavy lines at the bottom to finish up that area. And I'm just repeating ovals and circles, creating that rhythm in my picture that will make it look like it's stone. Once I have all my circles and ovals for my stone, I'm going to look at my background. I'm going to start to create some trees behind the houses that you might see in the background from a distance. I'm going to add another small boat. To create my small boat, similar to what I did the first one, I'm making a flag with a triangle and a horizontal line. I make a trapezoid for the roof. I make a square for the house, a horizontal line for the top of the boat. I'm going to add another horizontal line so I can have a design on it, and then 2 diagonals. Now I'm going to start to create my water lines. So I'm adding just wavy lines where the water meets the trees and where it's underneath the boat. I'm repeating those water lines so that I have rhythm. I'm even going to add some birds by creating the letter M kind of stretched out. Because lots of seagulls fly by the sea. Now I have my sketching part done. I'm going to start to watercolor it. When we're watercoloring, do remember that it is called watercolor. We're adding lots of water to the paint. We're not taking our paintbrush and pressing down. As you're watching me paint, notice I go to the water cup, I get my colors. I'll normally start with my weakest color first, like my yellow. And as I'm going for those colors, I'm looking in there and going to different spaces where I can allow spots to dry first that might end up touching each other. So I end up starting with my sun, and I'm going to let that sun dry before I start to color the blue. If I colored the blue right away, then my yellow and my blue would mix, and then it would make green around there. So now I'm going over to the windows, and I'll let those dry before I start to color in my house. So I'm kind of spacing out where I'm plotting how I'm going to be working. Notice as I'm painting, you see I'm using the tip of the paintbrush, not pressing down all the way to the metal handle. That allows me to color in neatly. Now I've got my yellow done. I'm going to start to pick another one of my colors, thinking about where I'm placing it, and I'm not wanting to place the things right next to where I just painted because I'm allowing those to dry. Because if we're painting right next to where we just painted, they'll mix and blend. If you have areas that do end up blending into each other, don't get upset. Just let it dry a little bit, and then you can end up painting the color you want over that section. If you notice, when I'm painting, my brown starts to mix into the blue, or the blue mixes into that brown of that roof, and I just go back and I color back in what I want that color to be. So like the brown where it was mixing into the blue, I went and I colored in that a second time, and then I just keep fixing it. And on my ocean, I want it to be very watery, and I'm going to add a little sprinkle of salt. This is a watercolor technique that will allow it to have little bubbles in it. So I'm just sprinkling a little tiny bit of salt. I'm not adding a lot. It's just a very tiny bit. And what it does is absorbs that watercolor paint, and as that salt absorbs the watercolor paint, it'll create bubbles in the ocean. That way I have a little bit of differentiation between my blue sky and my blue ocean, so they don't look the same. And here you can see when I'm painting, my brown started mixing into my blue again. Like I said, it's okay if those things happen. Just go back over and paint the color that you want and let it dry. Sometimes that happens. Okay. Once I have my salt bubbles on my ocean, I just finished coloring in my houses because I've let those areas dry enough that I can start to paint those in. When you're finished with your background, that's you done for day 1. Next week we'll show how to create the weaving hot air balloon for our picture.